I'm Cecelia, and this is my Cuban sandwich recipe. So Cuban sandwich is traditionally made on Cuban bread. It has roast pork, ham, if you're in Tampa, salami, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard. So this is a 1/4 cup of water. This is a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And this is a 1/2 teaspoon of instant yeast. The sponge needs to sit for at least an hour or 24 hours overnight in the fridge. All right, so 3 cups of flour. Try not to get it outside the bowl. 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, and then 1.5 teaspoons of table salt. And then you just want to whisk this up. This is a cup of water, 110 degrees. Warm water will help jumpstart the yeast. And this is a 1/4 cup of lard, and then our sponge. Okay. Dough hook on, and then we're gonna go on low for 2 minutes, just until the dough comes together in a big mass. And then I'll bump it up to medium. That's it, and then stop. And then we're just gonna knead this for like 30 seconds. Okay, so this is ready. And I just like to pat them in there. And I'll just let it expand. Okay, so this has been resting for 45 minutes. I'm gonna punch it down. It's pretty sticky on the bottom, but it's okay. And I'm gonna divide it in half, and you kind of just eyeball it. Next, I'm gonna flatten this into a 10 by 6 rectangle. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold this into a rectangle again. So I'm gonna do the top down to the midline, and then I'm gonna do the bottom up to the midline. And I'm gonna press on it to seal it. I'm gonna fold this over again, make another rectangle essentially. And then I'm just gonna pinch this. Okay, so I'm gonna roll this to 15 inches. 15, exactly. When I'm putting the second one on, you want to be sure that you leave 3 inches, that they have enough space to rise out and up. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. These have doubled in size, so I'm going to take the plastic off. Basically what we're going to do now is very lightly score the top. It's a very light score, but you want to be sure that you see it pull open. It should be about 1/8 of an inch deep. To get the super thin crust on the exterior that you want for Cuban bread, what you need to do is cover it. We found the best way to do that was to take a 12 by 16 inch rectangular roasting pan. You can find these in the baking aisle of your grocery store. And this fits nicely over it. So I have a 450-degree oven, and it's just gonna go on the middle rack. And it's gonna go in just like this, covered for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to take the roasting pan off, and it'll go another 10 minutes until it's light golden brown. Oh, that's hot. That slash opened up nicely. I'm gonna make a crosshatch pattern, and that will help the fat melt down into the pork better. So I'm gonna make 1-inch slashes. Okay, so kosher salt, 1/3 of a cup. 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of orange zest, 1 tablespoon of lime zest, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, and 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So even though it's traditional to marinate the pork in a mojo sauce, we found it just made it dry. So we took the flavors of a mojo without the acid that was drawing out the liquid, and we came up with a really flavorful mojo-inspired sugar salt rub that will sit on the pork butt overnight. So I have an oven preheated at 325. It's gonna go in with water covered, fat side up, so that the fat renders. And then that's gonna go for about 2.5 to 3 hours until it registers 175 degrees on the inside. And then I'm gonna, at that point, take the lid off. I'm gonna let that go uncovered until 195 degrees, at which point it's fork tender and super luxurious and soft. If you wanna make sandwiches, what we suggest that you do is let it cool and then even refrigerate it until it's completely cooled. And then you can get super thin slices for the sandwich. We're gonna heat oil and garlic in a small saucepan. Okay, so this has cooled for 5 minutes, and we're gonna add our rest of our sauce ingredients to it. So it's 1/3 of a cup of pineapple juice, 1/3 of a cup of orange juice, 1/3 of a cup of lime juice, 1 tablespoon of yellow mustard, 1 1/4 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon pepper, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of dried oregano, and 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. So now we're gonna assemble our sandwiches. Okay. So I'm gonna cut this in half crosswise, and then I'm gonna have it lengthwise. So what I'm gonna do is start with our mojo sauce. So next is our mayonnaise. So this is thin slices deli ham, the thinly sliced pork from our refrigerated roast. It's a half a cup per sandwich. So next is the salami. We're just gonna do 3 per sandwich here. With very thinly sliced. It's 4 pickles per half. 1 tablespoon of mustard per half. Okay, so these are ready to go. I have my 12-inch nonstick skillet and I have 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna melt 1 tablespoon. I'm gonna put my sandwiches in and then put this down. It's been 7 minutes and I'm gonna flip them. So that's what we're looking for, nice light golden brown. And you want it to sound hard when you tap it. So the last thing before you can dig into this is it has to be cut into a triangle. The bread should be crispy, but not tough. So when you bite into it, it's all pressed together, so everything's kind of melded together. And then the roast pork is just so silky, and it's just really enjoyable to eat. Totally gonna finish this whole thing too.